Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach, we're learning the last Amud of Masechta Yuma today, starting from the bottom of Daf Pei Zayin Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav. So the Gemara here is discussing the tefillah of Ne'ilah. There was a machlekes before between Rav and Shmuel. Rav said that tefillas Ne'ilah is actually another full tefillah with a Shmein Esrei, with 7 brachas, like it is with the other tefillas of Yom Tov and of Yom Kippur. Shmuel said that it's just a tefillah of Ma'anu Machayenu. So here, Rav continues according to his shitta. Amar Rav, tefillas Ne'ilah, peiteres ashal arvis. If you daven Ne'ilah, so then that patters you of davening Ma'ariv on Matzah Yom Kippur. So the Gemara explains, Rav l'taimei. Rav is following his opinion. The Amar tzloisi yiserihi. Rav said that the tefillah of Ne'ilah is a full other davening of a Shmein Esrei. So therefore, v'kivin the tzalile, once he davens Ne'ilah, and as Rashi clarifies, the point of Rav's shitta here is not only that he davens a whole Shmein Esrei for Ne'ilah, but that the time for davening Ne'ilah is at night. So when the Gemara says v'kivin the tzalile, it means since he davens Ne'ilah at night time, sulei tzarech, it's not necessary to daven another tefillah of Ma'ariv at night. Fragt the Gemara, umi amar Rav achi, could it be that Rav said so, that this will patter you from Ma'ariv? But for Amar Rav, Rav said, Halacha kedivrei ha'emet tefillas arvis reshus. Rav said that we paskin like the opinion that davening Ma'ariv is just voluntary. So what does it mean it patters you from Ma'ariv? The whole tefillah of Ma'ariv in the first place is just a voluntary tefillah. Answers the Gemara, Ledivrei ha'emer chayve ka'ama. Rav is saying, even according to the opinion that says that it is an obligation to daven Ma'ariv, but once you daven Ne'ilah, and Ne'ilah is at night time, it'll be pater from davening Ma'ariv. Meisvei, the Gemara asks us to from a Braise where it says, Or Yom Kippurim, the night going into Yom Kippur, Mispal Sheva, you daven the Shmein Esrei, which is 7 brachas, and Mizvada, and there's Vidui at Ma'ariv. Shachris again, Sheva and Mizvada. Musif, Sheva and Mizvada. B'Ne'ilah, Mispal Sheva and Mizvada. And then it says in the Braise, Arvis, Mispal Sheva, Me'ein Shmein Esrei. When it comes to Ma'ariv, Matzah Yom Kippur, you daven also a Shmein Esrei. But over here, you daven also, even though it's already a weekday Shmein Esrei, and usually there are 18 brachas that you should be davening, but nevertheless, you daven a shorter Shmein Esrei. As Rashi explains, this is what the Gemara speaks about in brachas, that this shorter weekday Shmein Esrei is the 3 brachas in the beginning, the 3 brachas in the end, and 1 middle bracha of Havineni, where you put together a me'ain of those 13 middle brachas. So it says here clearly in the Braise that even though he already davened Ne'ilah, nevertheless, you do daven Ma'ariv. It doesn't patter you from Ma'ariv, although you can daven a shorter Ma'ariv. Why the Tanakama in this Braise allows to daven a shorter Ma'ariv? So Rashi says the reason is because people are waiting to go break their fast. It's Matzah Yom Kippur, so they allow to daven a shorter Ma'ariv. The Taisus brings from the Rashbam that said that because he's still fasting, so it's still considered to be, in some sense, Yom Kippur. The day of Yom Kippur is not only a day that's Aseh b'Melacha, but what characterizes the day is also the day of Inui, of fasting. So since you're still fasting, it's considered to be somewhat still Yom Kippur, so you daven a similar kind of Shmein Esrei to Yom Kippur, which is a Yontif Shmein Esrei of 7 brachas. Continuing in the Braise, Rab Chanina ben Gamliel Mishum Avaisav. So Rab Chanina ben Gamliel said in the name of his parents, his father, Mispalol Shmein Esrei Shleimus. Even Matzah Yom Kippur, by the Ma'ariv, you daven full 18 brachas of Shmein Esrei. Why? Because you have to say the Avdallah of Atochen Antonu in the 4th bracha of Chaynan Adas. And if you daven Avineni, where are you going to say the bracha of Avdallah? So therefore you have to daven the full Shmein Esrei. So Taisus points out that the truth is that you could say Havineni and include Havdalah in Havineni itself. However, because over here, this is not necessary to daven this shorter Shmein Esrei if it's a person that's traveling on the way, and therefore he always davens this way to daven quickly, so there we can put in over here, for him the Havdalah there. But over here, Matzah Yom Kippur, this reason of Havdalah is enough for us to say, let him daven the full Shmein Esrei and put Havdalah in the proper place in the bracha of Chaynan Adas. The point is, either way, we see according to both opinions that he davens Ne'ilah full the Shmoneh Esrei of Ne'ilah, like Rav's opinion, and yet it doesn't pater him from davening Ma'ariv. You have to daven Ma'ariv as well. Not like what Rav said, that once you daven Ne'ilah at night, you pater from Ma'ariv. So the Gemara answers, Tanoi, this subject, whether davening Ne'ilah paters from Ma'ariv or not, is a machlokes Tanoi. The Tanya, we learned in another Braise where it says, Kol chayavet tfilis, all people that are obligated to go to the mikveh, toivlin, kedarkan, b'yoyim akipurim, are allowed to go to the mikveh as usual for their obligation. Because they're not going to the mikveh for pleasure, to bathe themselves, to wash themselves, but because of an obligation, they're allowed to go on Yom Kippur. We don't paskin like this today, but this is the halacha here in the Braise. Nida, the Yeledes, a Nida and a Yeldis, so toivlis kedarkan, when do they go to the mikveh? On the 7th day at night, which is Belele Yom Kippurim, so they can go to the mikveh on the night of Yom Kippur. Balkari, a Balkari that has to go to the mikveh, and as Rashi says, this is based on the Takana of Ezra, and the time when they used to do the Takana of Ezra, when it was considered to be an obligation. So you're not allowed to say any Divrei Torah, you can't daven. So therefore, a Balkari goes to the mikveh Adam Mincha, Toivo V'Helech Adam Mincha, all day. He can go to the mikveh in the morning, so he can daven Shachris, in the afternoon, so he can daven Mincha. But after Mincha, he cannot go to the mikveh anymore. What's the reason? So as Rashi explains, the reason is because what tefillah are you going to daven after Mincha? Ne'ilah. So this Tan in the Braise holds, when do you daven Ne'ilah? You daven Ne'ilah at night. So if you're davening at night, you can wait till then to go to the mikveh after Yom Kippur, and then you'll daven Ne'ilah at night. This is the first opinion of the Braise, and this is the source of Rav's opinion, that the time for davening Ne'ilah is at night. So once you're davening Ne'ilah at night, you don't have to daven Ma'ariv. Rabbi Yosi Yomer, however, Rabbi Yosi says, Kol hayom kuloi, that a Balkari can go to the mikveh the entire day, including after Mincha, because even after Mincha, you still have to daven Ne'ilah, and you daven Ne'ilah during the day, before Shkia. So therefore, you can't go to the mikveh at nighttime before Ne'ilah, you have to go to the mikveh during the day. So therefore, all day you can go to the mikveh. So this is the other opinion of the Braise before that we had, that Ne'ilah is by day, and then you have to daven Ma'ariv at night. But now the Gemara brings another Braise that's a contradiction to what it said here. The opinions in this Braise here are reversed. Veramino, I'll ask you a stire. It says in another Braise, Azov, Azove, Amitzaira, Amitzairaz, Boyel Nide, Tmei Meis, all these individuals that have to go to the mikveh, Toivlin, Kedarkim, B'Yom Kippurim. They go to the mikveh as usual on Yom Kippur. Nida v'Yeledes, Toivlin, Kedarkim, B'Leil Yom Kippurim. And Nida and a Yeldis that go at night on the 7th day, they go to the mikveh the night of Yom Kippur. Balkari, Toivo v'Hoilech, Kol hayom kuloi. A Balkari can go to the mikveh, and here the Tanakama says that a Balkari goes to the mikveh the entire day. Seemingly the reason is because Tanakama is saying that he davens Ne'ilah during the day, so therefore he goes to the mikveh the entire day. The exact opposite of what it said before, that the Tanakama said that he only goes to the mikveh until Mincha. Past Mincha, you can't go to the mikveh. The exact opposite of what Rabbi Yosi said before. So seemingly here, Rabbi Yosi is the one that says that Ne'ilah is davened at night, and therefore he doesn't go to the mikveh after Mincha. He can wait until at night to go to the mikveh. So the Gemara answers the contradiction of these two braises, Loi Kasha. It's not a question. Ha, the tzali tfilas Ne'ilah. This braise here, when it says that according to Rabbi Yosi, after Mincha you can't go to the mikveh, it's not because you wait with Ne'ilah until at night, but it's because he already davened Ne'ilah by Mincha time. So therefore, after that time, he can't go to the mikveh anymore. That's what he's speaking about. And the loit tzali, in the previous braise, where Rabbi Yosi says that even after Mincha, you can still go to the mikveh because he still has to daven Ne'ilah. He didn't daven Ne'ilah yet. So that's the difference. Did he daven Ne'ilah at the time of Mincha or not? But the Gemara asks on this, Idit tzali, if in this second braise here, the case is that he davened Ne'ilah right after Mincha, so then my tamai the Rabbanan. So why are the Rabbanan saying that he could continue, he can go to the mikveh till the end of the day? He davened Ne'ilah already. Why should he go to the mikveh? The only reason to go to the mikveh is because he's a Balkari, he can't daven. But if he already davened, why would the Rabbanan say that he should go to the mikveh? Answers the Gemara, there's a whole different reason. Because Kasavri Rabbanan, the Rabbanan of this Braisa hold, Tefillah bizmana mitzvah, to go to the mikveh in the time when you could go in the beginning, in other words, on the 7th day or on that day that you could go, don't delay it. the tefillah, the first opportunity in this man that you could go, there's a mitzvah to go at that time. So even though he doesn't have to daven anymore, but since he's tamei now and he could go to the mikveh now, there's a mitzvah to go bisman on the first time, not to delay it for later. So therefore, Rabbanan here are saying that he should go to the mikveh right here now. So Rashi explains that explains the opinion of the Rabbanan in this braisa, but it also explains to us that the Rabbanan of this braisa are arguing it's not the same opinion of the Rabbanan in the previous braisa, because in the previous braisa the Rabbanan said that although the time for him to go to the mikveh is today on Yom Kippur, but because you daven the Ila at night, so you can wait until at night to go to the mikveh after Yom Kippur, and then you'll daven the Ila then. So in the previous braisa, the Rabbanan held that tefillah bismana is not a mitzvah. You can wait until at night. So Rashi says, true, the Gemara is not answering that the Chachamim of both braisas are the same opinion. These two braisas are talking about two completely different subjects. The subject of the first braisa is, when's the Zman of Ne'ilah? Rabbanan, the Tanakam of that braisa, hold the Zman of Ne'ilah is at night, so therefore you don't go to the mikvah on Yom Kippur, you wait until at night. And the Rabbi Yosi there holds that the Zman of Ne'ilah is after Mincha during the day, so therefore you have to go to the mikveh by day to be able to daven Ne'ilah. That's the subject of the previous braisa. The subject of this braisa is the concept of tefillah bismana, mitzvah or not. Rabbi Yosi held tefillah bismana is not necessarily a mitzvah. So once you daven Ne'ilah together with Mincha, there's no reason to go to the mikveh today dafka. You can delay it till tomorrow. And the Chachamim are saying, no, even once you davened, but because tefillah bismana mitzvah, you must go today. So these two braises are discussing two completely different subjects, and the Chachamim, the Tanakama of this braisa and the Tanakama of the previous braisa are not the same opinion. Talk the Gemara, but Miklal, the Rabbi Yosi Sava Lav mitzvah. So he's saying that if this is what the Rabbanan are coming to say, that even once you daven, you must go to the mikveh today because this is the Zman of the mitzvah. So the Rabbanan, Rabbi Yosi that is, that disagree and say that once you daven Ne'ilah, you should not go to the mikveh today. So they hold that tefillah b'zman is not a mitzvah. You could delay it till tomorrow. But Vatanya, we learned in another brayse as follows, and this was also in the beginning, towards the beginning of the Masechta. Harei shahaya shem kosav absare, person that had the Eibishter's name written in his body, in the flesh of his body. So now is the problem. Harei zeh lo yirchatz, he should not go to bathe, v'lo yosuch, should not anoint himself, v'lo yamed b'mokim atanefis, he should not stand in an impure, in a dirty place, because of it's an embarrassing the Eibishter's name. If he has a tefillah that he must, there's a mitzvah for him to go to the mikveh, so what does he do now? So he covers it with some kind of a reed that will protect it, and he can go to the mikveh. So there's a discussion about this in the Gemara in Shabbos. What exactly is he accomplishing by covering it? Because really it would be a chatzitza. So the Gemara's conclusion in Shabbos is that he's going to cover it in a way that the water is going to get under it, and it might erase it. And he might erase the Eibishter's name. And that's not an issue, the Gemara there says, because it's only grama. He's not directly erasing the Eibishter's name. However, the reason why he's covering it is because it's not covered for the Eibishter's name to be undressed when in front of the Eibishter's name. So therefore, he's getting undressed, but he has to cover it with a reed. Rabbi Yosi says, Yerid v'tevel kedarkai. He goes to the mikveh as usual, even if he doesn't have a reed available to cover it, he should go to the mikveh. But if he's going to the mikveh, he should be sure not to directly rub off the Eibishter's name. He goes to the mikveh, and if the name gets rubbed off on its own, that's called a grama, and it's not an issue. So now, what exactly is the basis of their machlokes? They both hold that by going to the mikveh, you could allow the Eibishter's name to get erased b'derech grama. As I mentioned, even when you're putting the gemi, the Eibishter's name is going to get erased because it can't be tight, it can't be a chatzitza. The water is going to go under and it's going to erase the Eibishter's name. So what are they arguing about? Whether you should try to find a reed to cover it or not. The kaimalon, and we know and we've explained the pshat in this machlokes, the betvila bizmana mitzvah. What they're arguing about is whether it's appropriate for a person to go to the mikveh in that time when he could go the first time, that it's a mitzvah to do it then. That's what they're arguing about. So in other words, the Tanakama says you should find a gemi, you should find something to cover the Eibishter's name, for the honor of the Eibishter's name. If you can't, delay the tefillah till tomorrow and you'll find a gemi tomorrow. Rabbi Yosi says don't delay the tefillah, that it's a mitzvah to go to the mikveh now, so go to the mikveh today even if you can't find a gemi. So here we see that Rabbi Yosi is the one that holds that tefillah bismana is a mitzvah. So how can we say that before Rabbi Yossi held regarding a person that davened Ne'ilah that even though today is the Zman of the Tefillah, you can delay it till at night or till tomorrow, and Tefillah is not, Bismana is not a mitzvah? So the Gemara answers, it's two different Rabbi Yossis. Hahi Rabbi Yossi bar Yehudihi. When we said before that Rabbi Yossi holds that Tefillah Bismana is not a mitzvah, you could delay it till a later day, that's Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda. And the Tanya, like we learned in the Braisa, Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda says, Daya l'tefillah shetehei b'achroina. It's enough for the tefillah at the last time, at the last opportunity of when the tefillah could be, that the tefillah will cover everything. What's that Braisa talking about? There's a machlokes b'negei to a woman that was pregnant and then she gave birth, and it's not clear when she gave birth, it's not clear what she gave birth to, and there's many variables of exactly when the time of her tefillah would be. So over there in the Braisa, there's machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, exactly when she has to go to the mikveh. She should go to the mikveh on a few different occasions to cover the different times that is the zman of the tefillah. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda comes and says there are different times she's required to go to the mikveh, but it doesn't have to be on that day. So wait until the last time, the last date that she has to go to the mikveh, and she go to the mikveh, then it'll cover everything that she has to go to the mikveh. So this is Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda clearly saying that tefillah bismana is not a mitzvah, and that was the Braisa before. Here in this Braisa, where it says that Rabbi Yossi says tefillah bismana is a mitzvah, so don't wait to find a reed to cover the Eibish's name, as Rashi says, that's Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Sagt die Gemara Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a Braisa, Haroye Keri b'Yom Kippurim, a person that sees an emission on Yom Kippur, so Yerid v'Tovel, he can go to the mikveh. Ule Erev Yeshafshef, and then in the evening he should wipe himself off. Fragt die Gemara Le Erev, and the evening he's going to wipe himself off. Mai dahava hava. What was done was done. In other words, the point of wiping yourself off is usually before you go to the mikveh to make sure that there's no chatzitza in any area of your body. So what does it mean that later you wipe yourself off? Elohim rather say, the pshat over here of what this Braisa was saying is, Mi be'erev yishafshef. From before Yom Kippur, you should rinse yourself off before Yom Kippur to be sure that you have no chatzitza. So in the event that you have to go to the mikveh on Yom Kippur, you won't have to rinse yourself off, you'll know that you have no chatzitza, and you can go to the mikveh. So Gemara, according to one Girsa, adds, Kasavar mitzvah l'shafshef. The Tana of this Braisa holds that it's a mitzvah to rinse yourself off, that there shouldn't be a chatzitza. So as Mefarshim explained, this means even though the takana, b'negei to not having a chatzitza and rinsing yourself off before you go to the mikveh was made for the women, that they have to rinse off their hair to make sure that there's no chatzitza, and it's not a requirement to be mishafshif, to rinse yourself off if you're going to the mikveh, but nevertheless it's a mitzvah. It's better to rinse yourself off, that there shouldn't be a chatzitza. Tana kamed Rav Nachman, Tana taught in front of Rav Nachman. Haroye keri b'Yom Kippurim, one that sees keri on Yom Kippur, aveinaisav mechulun lai. His averes will be forgiven for him. Fragt the Gemara v'atanya aveinaisav sedurin, but we learned in the Braisa that a person that sees keri means that all of his averes are set up, they're all there organized in front of him, not forgiven for him. And says the Gemara, Mai Sedurin, what does the word Sedurin mean? Sedurin limachal. They're set up all ready to be forgiven for him. A person that sees keri, so Rashi over here says, so he sees keri beloy miskaven, not intentionally, so then it's a good simon for him, yire zera v'yarech yomim. It's a lashon of a pasuk in Yeshaya, a person that sees a keri, so yire zera, yarech yomim, will have long life. It's a good sign that his averis will be forgiven for him. Okay, we'll leave the Siyum of the Masechta for when we come to the Mitzvah Shem. We'll make the Siyum separately. We'll leave the last part in Mitzvah Shem for the Siyum.